Those against, please say nay.
It was bound to happen sooner than later. Federal lawmakers were not going to take lightly the letter from President Goodluck Jonathan, where he softly criticized the National Assembly for not making appropriations to the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC. Federal lawmakers in the House of Representatives brought up the issue in a motion which noted what they say is the persistent, blatant disregard of the resolutions of the House by the executive. Moving the motion, Representative Garba Dati said the President has not implemented the resolution calling for the removal of the Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Mr. Aruma Ote.
The House observes that the motion urging the removal of Ms. Aruma Ote, for instance, hinge on the fact that her appointment as Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission was a gross violation of the Commission Act, as she does not possess the minimum professional qualification prescribed for appointment to that position.
Reps Minority Leader said the disregard of National Assembly resolutions was demonstrated in the letter from President Goodluck Jonathan to the National Assembly, where he tackled the National Assembly over its resolution on zero allocation to SEC during the consideration of the 2013 budget proposal.
I believe the advisors of Mr. President, particularly the Attorney General, should draw his attention to Section 21 of the Fiscal Responsibility Act. Mr. Speaker, the President also stated that we as a House, the effect of what we did was to shut down the operations of SEC. Well, I say no, sir. What has shut down the operations of SEC today, Mr. President, is your refusal to obey the resolution of the House.
The House of Representatives insisted that President Goodluck Jonathan implement the resolution of the House by removing the Director General of SEC, Ms. Aruma Ote. The House also directed the House Committee on Legislative Compliance to monitor and ensure that the resolution is implemented by the Executive. Linda Akibe, Channels Television News.
Welcome back. Well, we're still looking at the 2013 budget, and of course you just listened to that session last week where some of the House of Reps members complained about the fact that the executive had disregarded some of the resolutions passed by the House. Well, I'm being joined now in the studio by Femi Gbajabiamila. He's a minority leader, House of Representatives, and Osaro Ehobamien. He's a legal practitioner and also a senior advocate of Nigeria. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being here. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much.
You listened to that part of that session last week, and Femi, let me start with you. Well, you did say that, well, a couple of issues, but of course, for that particular session, which our reporter captured, was the SEC, the SEC issue. But of course, there are other issues talking about the amended document where the executive did talk about the fact that there were certain clauses and provisions that were in conflict with the principles of separation of powers. The fact that the Accountant General, well, talking about the budget, some part of it should be, the Finance Ministry should have that, have the Accountant General look at some of that. I don't want to confuse you, but just start with that particular issue that you raised. Let's just hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I found the President's letter very interesting, and I wondered where the Attorney General was when this letter was being drafted. First of all, the sum total, the effect of what the letter of the President was saying was, don't do your oversight. That's all he was saying. Don't do your oversight functions. The Accountant General cannot submit anything to you quarterly. The Minister of Finance cannot submit anything to you quarterly. And that goes against the grain with the letter and the spirit of the Constitution, particularly Section 88 and Section 89, where the oversight is actually captured. For me, like I told a couple of colleagues, those clauses were not even necessary in the Appropriation Act in the first place, because it's inherent in the powers of the legislature to ask for those things. So there was no need for us to even put those clauses in. It was just merely repetitive of the powers you already have. I can call the Accountant General. You see, he talked about separation of powers as a principle of democracy, forgetting that it's a twin principle. Where you have separation of powers, you also have checks and balances. And those clauses were to effect the checks and balances inherent in any democracy. How do I monitor performance of the budget if I cannot ask the Accountant General to report to the House? How do I monitor how far you've gone in terms of your constitutional responsibility and check what you're doing.
But has that been the practice? Sorry, but has that been the practice? You said those clauses were not necessary in the first place, but has that been the practice?
We've had those clauses. We've had those clauses in the past, yes. But I'm saying that they're even redundant because you already have those powers in the Constitution, inherent in your duties and your responsibilities. But fine, they are already in the Appropriation Act. So what the president is saying is, do not do your oversight. I really don't understand the import. But anyway, like his letter said, he asked for consideration, and we will give it due consideration.
Well, Sarah, let me hear your thoughts on that one. I see you smiling there.
Okay. I think we have to be very clear as to which particular clauses we're talking about. It is unusual to have such clauses in the Constitution if the clauses that we're talking about are clauses to deal with oversight function. And as Femi said, you do have powers to cause an investigation to be conducted for the purposes of passing a law or for the purposes of exposing inefficiency, corruption, and waste within your legislative competence. You have those powers. So I'm not sure what was inserted that is causing the offense. There shouldn't be that in the budget at all. But I think we have to be more specific so that we can talk about which particular clause we don't necessarily agree with and shouldn't be in the budget.
Now, Femi, let me come back to you. This budget, since January 14, when it was sent to the presidency, has had a rather rough journey. But now we're having, thankfully, both parties, leadership of the National Assembly and the presidency, were able to reach an agreement whereby certain amendments would be made, but now it's been passed back. So far, are you satisfied with the process? I know there's still gray areas, these issues that have been raised, but for you, are you happy with where we are right now?
Am I happy with where we are? It's a normal process. If there's a need for an amendment, you bring that amendment to the House, and that's what has been done. So until we begin to look at the details, I don't know the details.
Why is it taking so long? Why is it taking so long?
For the details to come in? Well, the ball is in the presidency's court.
But they have sent, I want to understand that I understand what actually is going on. The amended budget has been sent back to the National Assembly. So from there, what is happening right now at that point? Well,
don't forget that that was only sent, a few days ago, about a week ago, right? And, there's a procedure. The amendment is sent, and we have assumed that the letter has been read, and we're assuming that to be the first reading of the amendment. It will come up for debate. And I'm sure, probably, I doubt it will come up before because we're going on break on Wednesday for Easter, about a 9-day break or thereabouts. As soon as we get back, it will be debated.
What's the likely scenario for that debate?
For that debate, you want my honest
your honest opinion? Yes. I asked because we've been going back and forth, so we just.
Yeah, I find it difficult to envisage a situation where the presidency's demands, a lot of them will be agreed to by the House. I find it very, very difficult to see a situation where we would agree to those demands, particularly the clauses. Basically
you
tells
the clauses. Well, let's go into
practically all of